Hello and welcome to episode 8 of my knitting podcast. My name is Annika and I am a natural yarn dyer as well as an avid knitter and basically lover of all things fiber arts. I'm coming to you from Germany, and if you have seen some of my previous episodes, you might notice that we are in a different setting today. Right behind me you can see part of our living room. I thought it would be time to experiment a bit with the background, so I hope you like it. Let's get started because I have several finished objects that I want to share with you, as well as a new cast on that you haven't seen before, and also some spinning. Now I hope that you don't notice any background noises because the kitchen is right behind you and I do have 2 loaves of sourdough bread baking in the oven. Fingers crossed that you cannot hear the oven noises. Alright, so initially I wanted to start with a different finished object, but since this baby hat is going to be a gift and the recipient just arrived in this world last night, actually, we are going to start with this one. So this is the baby bear bonnet, which is a knitting pattern by Pernille Larsen from Knitting for Olive. This is going to be a gift for my new nephew, who, like I said, was just born last night, and as you can imagine, we are all very happy about it, especially since he and his mom are doing fine. So about the pattern. I knitted the baby bear bonnet in Knitting for Olive's own yarn, so I used 1 strand of the merino along with 1 strand of the compatible cashmere. The colorway of the merino is raccoon and the compatible cashmere is in slate gray, and they are very close in color. You can see that it does not look highly mild or anything like it. I really like the way it came out. And what else did I want to say? I think it is a super cute pattern. It was easy to follow. Personally, I found it a bit fiddly, so it was not my favorite to knit, but I really enjoy the finished project. So you cast on around the face here and do the C-stitch border, and then you knit up and shape the ears, and then you do some decreases to shape the back of the head, and in the end you finish with those I-cord straps. Overall, I think it was definitely worth it, but a bit too fiddly for my taste. And since my nephew is not the only child of my brother and his wife, but he is a younger brother, I wanted to make something matching for his sister. So I also made the baby bear balaclava, which is also a pattern by Pernille Larsen from Knitting for Olive. And I used exactly the same yarn combination. And it is a very similar pattern, but of course we have this neck part to keep the toddler's neck warm, and I think this is very practical and also super cute. I really liked balaclavas like this for my own daughters when they were younger, and I think it's a very cute and sweet pattern as well. It was a bit less fiddly, but still not my favorite to knit, but similar to the bonnet, I think it was very much worth it, and I hope my niece will get a lot of wear out of it. I made the 2 to 4 year size and she's 3, so I hope it will fit her really well this fall and winter season, and then she and her baby brother can match, and I hope that they will enjoy this, or rather their parents. I used the same needle size for the balaclava, like the one I used for the bonnet, so a 4mm needle, which corresponds to a US 6. And in case you're interested in the amount of yarn that I used, the baby bonnet, let me check, took 13 grams of cashmere and 19 grams of merino, and the balaclava took 19 grams of cashmere and 32 grams of merino. In case you're interested in any more details, I'm going to leave links to my Ravelry project pages in the description box for you. Alright, on to the next finished object, which you have seen a number of times before, I think, but they are finally finished, and those are my Kura Socks. This is a pattern, a free pattern by Miss Evil Knits, which comes in the form of YouTube video tutorials, and she gives you a number of different options how you can knit these socks. So they are intended to be worked in unspun yarn, which I did. So I used one strand of knitted yarn from Rock Air and held it together with one strand of cream colored Plötolopi yarn from the Icelandic brand Istex, and this created this mild, almost watercolory looking effect, which I quite like. For the knitted yarn, I ordered a surprise package from Knitted back in March of this year, and yeah, you basically order 200 grams of yarn and you don't know which colorways you will get. And I got really lucky and I got all of the colorways, or pretty much all of the colorways, from the May collection. So this is what they are. I'm not sure about the names. I know that this one, the neutral one, is called Teppa, which means garden path, and I think they are all very, very pretty. The socks are knitted toe up, which was my first time knitting socks toe up, and it was also my first time knitting socks with unspun yarn, which was a bit challenging, I have to say. So I had some tension issues both in the toe and also on the heel flap, and this resulted in the first sock looking extremely wonky. So then I knit the second sock, which is this one, I think, and the first one was so wonky that I completely ripped it back and then re-knitted it. So technically I've knit this pattern 3 times now to get this one pair of socks, and I am very happy with how it turned out. I really like this beautiful grass stitch motif here, and like I said, she has some very thorough YouTube tutorials and explains it really well. But yeah, I'm not sure if knitting toe up is the issue here, or maybe knitting with unspun yarn. I'm not sure. Knitting socks with unspun yarn, that is. I think I'll give it another try in a couple of months, and I'm really looking forward to wearing these socks in the upcoming fall and winter because they are super cozy and very nice, but it wasn't my favorite knit, I have to say. I used a 3mm size needle, which corresponds to a US 2.5, and I cast it on 44 stitches in case you're interested. Sorry if my voice sounds a bit different. I'm just recovering from a bad cold and I still have issues with my voice sounding a bit funny, so excuse me and please bear with me. I hope it will get better very soon. So if you have watched my last podcast, I mentioned towards the end that I was planning on dyeing up some yarn with avocados, and here it is. So this was my very first time dyeing 100% silk yarn. This is Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, which I purchased in the colorway Cream with the intention to dye it with avocados to create a dusty shade of pink, because if you use avocados for natural dyeing and don't mordant the yarn beforehand, you usually get those beautiful shades of dusty pink. And I think it even looks a bit rose gold. I'm very, very happy with how it came out. So, and then I cast it on, and let me show you, I've got quite a lot of knitting done on this project. This is the Cumulus Tee by Petite Knit, and I'm very happy with how it's turning out. So I'm almost done with the body now. There's just like a couple of centimeters left to go. You start apparently, like you can see, at the top and then do some raglan increases, and then you just knit straight down. Then you attach the sleeves and finish off with an I-cord edging. and I'm very much looking forward to wearing this tee. I am knitting the smallest size, which will give me a couple of inches of positive ease. And since I'm using the yarn that is recommended in the pattern, I think I more or less got gauge. I am using also the needle size that was recommended in the pattern, which is a 3mm needle, which corresponds to a US 2.5. Something I wanted to mention about the yarn, since I'm knitting with hand-dyed yarn, I am alternating skeins. So I'm knitting one round with the one skein and then I'm switching skeins. But in order to prevent like a line between two stitches where you alternate the skein every round, I'm doing a bit of a different technique. I am trying to insert a clip so that you can see while I try to explain it. So I knit the round and then I end 2 stitches before the end of the round. And then I slip those 2 stitches and the first stitch of the next round, so the one that has the other skein attached, I slip them knitwise and then just continue knitting. And then I do this over and over again, and that way you don't get this harsh line between those 2 stitches, but like just a continuous change of the stitch where you switch the skeins. I hope this was clear, but I think it works really, really well, and then that way it looks very even. I'm really, really loving this knit. It is very mindless. It's just miles and miles of stockinette, but I'm very happy about this, and I'm also very happy with how this yarn came out. And in case you're interested in learning how to dye yarn yourself using natural dyes, I have written a free guide all about the steps that are involved in the natural dyeing process. And I'm going to put the link in the description box in case you're interested. It is completely free for you to download. Let me know if you have any question about dyeing yarn, especially commercially produced yarns with natural dyes, and I'll be happy to answer them in the comments. Next up is a project that I have been working on for a number of weeks now, although it doesn't really look like it here. So this is the beginning of the second half of my Maeron sweater. I am knitting this using Wool Dreamers Saona, which is a blend of cotton and wool. So I have this neutral color here, which is called Ozetta, and I have another colorway for the contrast, and this grayish blue is called 1985. So those are the yarns that I'm using. And what I did here is that I started with a provisional cast on, and this is supposed to be the shoulder part. So now I'm going to work my way up sideways around the front and the back, and in the end I'm going to knit the sleeve. So that you can see what I mean. This is the first half that I've already done. This is it here. I hope you can see that now. I am very, very happy with this project. I've knitted it exactly to pattern with the exception of the seat stitch cuff of the sleeve that I decided to do in the contrast color, and in the pattern it is written to be knitted in the main body color. But besides that, I have done exactly what was said in the pattern. So this is a pattern by Natasha Hornby from Moonstruck Knits, and I think she has a very, very beautiful design aesthetic. I actually have yarn for another project of hers that I'm going to cast on very soon. But back to the Maeron sweater, it is completely done with slipped stitches, so there is no color work or stranded knitting involved. And what else? I am holding the yarn double because I did have issues getting gauge, and holding it double will get me more or less to the recommended gauge. I think it's going to be like a tiny bit smaller, but that's all right with me. And which needle size am I using? I'm using a 3.5mm needle, which corresponds to a US 4. I'm really looking forward to finishing this project and being able to wear it in the fall. I think it is very, very beautiful, and I'm also very happy with my choice of color here. And that is the Maeron sweater by Natasha Hornby. Alright, let's move on to spinning now. I have been spinning quite a lot lately, and since I'm still a new spinner, I am so excited to see all the different possibilities and all the different breeds and fibers and colorways and everything that you can do with spinning. So I am experimenting quite a bit at the moment. I have spun those two beautiful merino silk samples from Yara Fibers, which is a seller on Etsy. I'm going to link her in case you're interested. She has some very, very beautiful colorways. And what I did here, I took those samples. I think this one is 50 grams and this one was 30 grams. And I tried to spin them woolen spun. So getting them very lofty, airy and drapey. And then I did a simple 2-ply. And another spinning project that I have been working on is this beautiful combed top, which is a South Down sock set from Frau Wölfchen. Now Frau Wölfchen has an online store. She is based in Germany like I am, and I think she ships within the EU or Europe. But you can also get Frau Wölfchen fiber at the Making Stories online store, which does ship worldwide. So this beautiful colorway is called Melancholie, which means melancholy in English. And the sock set comes with 2 of those braids, which consist of 75 grams each. And what I did with the first braid is that I separated it into 4 parts widthwise, so that I get a yarn with a striping effect. And then, so this is it. And then I spun the singles and I chain plied it. So I did a 3-ply because I read that this is going to make a sturdy yarn. So it's going to be perfect for socks. At least that's what I hope. And I already started working on the first sock, and this is it here. I'm so happy with how it came out, or how it is turning out so far. Knitting with your own hand spun. Sorry, that is the bread. Sorry, that was the oven telling me that the bread is almost ready, so I had to take a little break. What was I saying? I think that knitting with your own hand spun is really something else. I have to say, I really love to knit and create garments for myself and for others, and being so proud of something that I made and being able to wear it. But spinning the yarn and then knitting something to wear with it is really one step further, and it's very enjoyable and it's just so much fun. So although this yarn is far from perfect, I think it is knitting up really nicely, like I said, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the color repeat throughout the sock. The sock knitting pattern that I'm using is one designed by myself. It is called the Happiness All Around Socks and is originally written for fingering weight yarn. So I knitted the sample for the knitting pattern with my merino lino yarn, which is a blend of 85% merino and 15% linen. I'm going to put up a picture for you so that you can see. But this yarn is definitely a lot thicker. So instead of casting on 64 stitches, what I would usually do with a fingering weight sock yarn for myself, I casted on only 44 stitches, and it's working out really well. I'm using a 3mm needle, again 2.5 US, and yeah, they are knitting up great, and I cannot wait to make some more progress and try them on and also show them to you in a future podcast once they are done. So one more yarn that I have spun that I wanted to show you is this one. I got this as part of my spinning beginner spinner fiber kit from Das Wollschaf, which I'm going to link for you below in case you're interested. And it said on the label Polar Fuchs, which means polar fox in English. And I had never heard of this sheep before, and I looked it up. And apparently polar fox is a description for a mixture of different Icelandic sheep wools. And that's definitely how it feels. It's a bit more rustic and very nice and bouncy. I've also spun this, or I tried to spin it woolen to get a bouncy and airy yarn. And I also did a 2-ply here. And we'll see what I make with it. So this beginner spinner kit is supposed to introduce you to different sheep breeds and different fibers, and so that you can experiment a bit and see which kind of fibers you like to work with. And this is working out really great for me. I'm very much loving the process, and I am working my way through the kit piece by piece. So if you are a beginner spinner yourself or think about learning how to spin, I recommend that you have a look at this video next, because in this video I share my step-by-step approach to learning how to spin and also show you some of the yarns that I've created so far. Until next time, see you. Bye guys.